Now, do you ever have those mind blank moments where you completely forget what you went into a room for, or maybe even worse, actually, you forget the name of a very good friend or a colleague that you work with all the time? But anyway, if you do, you are not alone. Broadcaster and writer Emma Freud has revealed that menopause mind fog made her so forgetful that she went to her GP and actually asked for a dementia test. And that's before she realised that it was, you know, a symptom of menopause. And I have to say, I really identify with this because before my dad had Alzheimer's, I probably would have forgotten things and not thought anything of it. But having Alzheimer's in my family, dementia in my family, I now do have those moments where I go, what have I come in here for? And where before I used to think that was amusing, I now go, oh, is this it? Have I got it? You know, so it does, and I'm 60 now, so it does prey on my mind a little bit. And Brenda, I know we've talked before when you had chemotherapy that it did affect your memory. Is that something that stayed with you? Can you identify with this?
I found my memory got so much worse after I had the chemotherapy, and I was really worried for a time because obviously being a performer, it's important that you can remember lyrics and a script. So I think the repetition of scripts and songs, that sticks with me, but I've still and I've always had a problem with short-term memory for as long as I can remember.
So if I asked you...
Down.
If I asked you, you know, what did you do last week? Or I'll say, oh, well, I saw a couple of girlfriends on this day. I did that on that day. Can you remember things like that?
I can't get that detailed, and I'm not even that detailed. I can't actually... I know I was on the show last week, but I couldn't tell you what day just off my head. But if I check my diary, I can tell you.
So you write it, you write everything down?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I kind of have a to-do list, and I think by writing things down, I believe it helps stick in my mind. Do you have a kind of to-do list?
I write a list about everything last thing before I go to sleep at night. I wrote a list. Last night I wrote a list and I wrote the mysterious word fish. And I wrote another word that was slippers because someone asked me something about slippers. So I write no more than 5 or 6 words. But
literally to remind you.
Yeah,
you
things I have to do every day. I never write a big list that I'm going to fail at. Yeah. And I want to say that to everybody at home. Don't start this list thing. Don't take it to manic levels. Don't over-list your life because then you'll feel a failure because you'll have listed...
Or a slave to the list.
Yeah. A slave to the list. So keep it short, keep it snappy, keep it achievable. As for memory loss, I do think that because you've got memory loss, thinking you might have Alzheimer's is a dangerous route to go down. I think people of all ages, from women in their 20s right through the menopause, have a certain amount of memory loss because simultaneously we're running 5 scripts in our heads. If we've got children, we're taking them to school, we're running the house, we're running our partner's weird demands and, you know, strange phases in working and all of that. We've got a pet, we've got the pet programme running in our head.
Or elderly parents.
Or elderly parents. So we're running like a computer 5 or 6 programmes simultaneously. So everybody suffers from memory. I mean, I'm guilty of going for supper with someone and telling them a story I told them the week before, but luckily they just stopped me by sentence 2 and say, oh, yeah, you told me that last week. Yeah. Or I recommend a book that I've already recommended.
I feel embarrassed. That happens to me. My best friend, if she's watching today, because my dad was called Dennis, and she lived through the whole my dad having Alzheimer's with me, and I go, oh, guess what? Yesterday or whatever, last week, and she goes, yeah, all right, Dennis, you told me, and I go, I did that, have I? She goes, yeah, mate, you've told me that. And then I get that, oh, no, no. I don't even find it funny now.
My memory deteriorates when I'm tired, actually. Sort of pretty much what you just said. But I know when my mum was in hospital, you know, and she'd had a hip operation, and I remember when the doctor came round and they said, what day is it, Mrs. Moore? And then, of course, she didn't know, because in hospital you don't really know, you know, like one day just blends into another, and she didn't know what day, and I was thinking, oh, no. But then he said, who's the Prime Minister? She knew. And then he said, can you do the months of the year backwards? And she could. Oh. So now I always do, you know, if I'm having a few days where I'm kind of forgetting things, I kind of do that. I don't know if it's a proper test, but it's an indicator that it's not just tiredness or...
You know, I remember with my dad, being with him when they were doing some of this testing, and they said, you know, what season is it? he got that wrong, and then what day was it? He got that right, actually. And he was brilliant with numbers, my dad. So I think they did counting backwards in sevens or something. He was like, bang, bang, bang.
I can't do that.
And then they said, do you know who the Prime Minister is, Dennis? He went, Blair. And I was like, well done, Dad. And he went, Lionel Blair.
But I think reading the biographies of Margaret Thatcher, for example, she, as her condition worsened, she had a very different form of memory loss. So she had complete short-term memory loss. She couldn't remember what happened 5 minutes before. But if you asked her, her biographers have all said that if you asked her what happened in the early 50s or in cabinet meetings during the early years she was in office, she could remember everything in precise detail. So memory is very selective.
And Brenda, do you try and do anything to keep your memory going? You know, puzzles and things.
I don't do puzzles, but I was going to say 2 of the things that I forget regularly are my keys and my phone. Where's my keys? Where's my phone? And then I'll say to the kids, "Oh, can you phone my phone?" But then I've forgotten to switch on the ringer, so I'm not even going to hear it anyway.
I remember Alison Pearson, who's a great writer, and she wrote a piece about memory at our age, and she said, you know, kids, they're like Google. You say, I mean, I use Grace all the time. I go, oh, Grace, what's the name of that? And she just straight away, the recall is... And Alison Pearson said, but our recall is like, I think she said, it's a man called Roy inside our head in carpet slippers, and he sort of shuffles off to a file and looks through the archives, and then he sort of that's the length of our recall.
We've got a lot in there. We've had a lot of years, haven't we? Listen, if you are concerned about anything, your memory, anything we've just talked about, go to our website, and we've got information about helplines available on there.